Welcome back and thank you for staying with All Angles. Now, there's another very important story happening on South African soil, particularly in Nasrec in Johannesburg. After all the uncertainty that preceded the 20th AGOA Forum, South Africa is hosting the gathering here in Johannesburg. The neutral stance on the war in Ukraine had put South Africa's participation in doubt. However, the US has revealed plans to expel the Central African Republic, Gabon, Niger and Uganda. Now, Mauritania has since been reinstated in the trade agreement, which gives products from selected sub-Saharan African countries duty-free access to the US. Our senior reporter Siphamandla Goge is at the forum in Johannesburg. He's keeping a close eye to let us know what's happening. Sipa, South Africa's Trade and Industry Minister welcomed the guest. What is he saying, particularly about the importance of this gathering?
Well, he says AGOA presents Africa as a continent with a number of opportunities. I mean, the gist of it really is to have access to one of the biggest markets in the world. So this AGOA, according to the minister, allows African countries to be able to send their products to America, and they are able to benefit and get some trade benefit out of that. Earlier today, he addressed a consultative meeting of ministers of trade and industry across the African continent who are attending this gathering. There are more than 34 countries that are participating here. More than 700 delegates are expected to be part of this. It's the 20th edition of this AGOA summit that is taking place in South Africa. Of course, there will be geopolitics that will feature strongly here. We all know that South Africa and the United States of America, they differ when it comes to Russia-Ukraine war. They also differ when it comes to what is happening in the Middle East in terms of their support for Israel and Palestine. But all of that will be, I wouldn't say put aside for now. What will be dominating is the issue of trade benefits and economic interests. No matter what happens in politics, states and countries are driven by one thing and one thing only: their interests. What is in the best interest of South Africa with this AGOA summit? What is in the best interest of Africa as a continent in this summit? But also, what is in the best interest of America when it comes to this AGOA partnership that they've been pushing in Africa? The continent has got a position of saying they would want to see this renewed and extended for the next 10 years. There are also calls to say extended for 20 years. But all of that is dependent on what the Congress in the United States decide to do with that. But generally speaking, there are positive, at least expectations that it will be renewed. The continent is pushing for 10 more years. They say if 20 years is offered, they will gladly take that. Minister Thulas Nxesi is responsible for labor and employment in South Africa. There are too many employment opportunities created by AGOA. What are those, and how does South Africa and Africa benefit out of AGOA, Minister?
Clearly, if we're talking about the free access to a number of this big market and duty-free access of our products. You're talking agricultural products, you're talking minerals, you're talking the metals in the manufacturing and so on. Clearly, it means the economy can be able to grow. The growth of the economy means you're going to create more jobs. That's very, very central in what we are talking about here. And you're talking about the biggest market and a trade partner here when we're talking about the United States, which everybody would love to have access to it. And that's how our economy is going to grow. But also the United States, it's talking about the biggest market, one of the biggest markets in the continent, which is very important because this is not just about South Africa. It is also about the continent as a whole. So those are the benefits which we are talking about. Yes, I heard you in your commentary talking about the tensions, the geopolitical tensions. They have always been there. They are still going to be there. But there are multilateral institutions which are able to deal with that. So it's not just about political diplomacy. It's also about economic diplomacy. And there's no country which is working in isolation. We are part of this integrated system, even in the trade system.
Let's talk about what you will be doing to lobby the United States labor movement to support the renewal and extension of AGOA, because you will need the labor movement in the United States to be behind this. Yes, it's the decision that will be taken by the administration and the Congress in the United States, but the labor sector in that country is crucial.
But I must give you this very important message which I got inside, that this message must go through to say, gone are the days where these economic and trade agreements are a preserve, or these agreements are done only by politicians on both sides and fine-tuned by the technocrats and the bureaucrats, leaving the most affected people, which is the workers, on both sides of the continent, both sides of the oceans. Because central to this, in order to implement all these agreements, in order to have this economic growth, it's going to be the workers. We are having inside here the U.S. Solidarity Center, which is the big trade unions in the United States, who are having the International Trade Union Center in the continent, together with the leadership from all these countries, and they are debating that. To us, that is very, very, very important for them to have an understanding, and there's an understanding on both sides that this is going to benefit both sides, and therefore they are all campaigning that this should stand for the both sides, so that there's benefit for everybody.
And while it stands, it needs to protect and respect workers' rights too.
Definitely, you're correct. One of the issues which is being raised fundamentally here is that all the companies who are involved, they need to respect the labor standards. They need to ensure that they keep to the agreements which are being reached by the various the South African the South African labor relations system. It's very fundamental. It's able to cover whatever agreements which we are having on the shop floor in relation to the conditions of service, and even in relation to the issues of the salaries. We can be able to mediate those. But everybody must respect the labor standards.
Minister, thank you very much for time. That is Minister Thulas Nxesi, responsible for labor and employment in South Africa. I'm going to ask my colleague Tami Kamane just to pen and show you this exhibition. A number of products are being displayed here, and there are a number of people who have benefited from AGOA. We will be talking to some of those who have been able to get some benefits from this AGOA that has been going on for years now. There are calls to renew it, led by the United States, and that's the question, to say, how do they benefit? And the sugarcane industry and sector is one of those that have benefited. Dokotela, thank you very much for your time. Let's talk about AGOA. Let's bring it home. What does it mean to you as the people who are operating in this sector? How have you benefited? Have you sent some of your products to the United States?
Awesome, thank you for having me, Siphamandla. The exciting part is that within this AGOA arrangement, we've got about 24,000 tons of sugar that we supply to the United States. We have a quota, and it attracts a premium price, actually a price higher than even our local price. And as a sugar industry, some of those proceeds we use for training and development of our small-scale black farmers.
You are talking about the sugar industry. We know domestically it's been struggling. There are calls that you must revive your industry that is facing certain domestic pressures. How does that affect you domestically and your products that you are sending abroad?
Yeah, some of our export proceeds are so low that we attract a dumping price. So in this AGOA dispensation, we get a premium price. So indeed, we are an excess producer. We export a lot of our sugar, but at a dumping price. That is why then we need to diversify and unlock biofuel so that we can then supply different value streams.
What is your comment on the ongoing calls to renew and extend this AGOA for the next 10 years or even 20 years?
I think it's much needed relief, or rather a commercial arrangement. As I've indicated, as a sugar industry, we benefit a lot with that premium price on that quota. In fact, we'd like to get a bigger quota if possible, because indeed we attract a premium price, which helps even with regards to training and development of our black sugarcane farmers.
And there's something that you get in return in terms of monetary value that you are able to utilize in your sector.
Definitely. Indeed, like I've indicated, our price that we attract from this AGOA quota, we get a premium price that is even higher than the local price, which then allows us to even do training and development of our farmers.
Baba, thank you very much for time. That is Dr. Mdlala that we were talking to here, talking about a number of issues, how AGOA is benefiting a number of South African companies and products that are exported to the United States of America. Again, Tammy will just pen and show you these centers and stores that are here, that products that are being exhibited. They range from manufacturing, automotive, as well as agricultural products. It's a number of products from across the continent that are on display here. And tomorrow we expect President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa to officially open this 20th AGOA summit.
All right, our senior reporter Siphamandla Goge live for us there in that exhibition center at the Nasrec Expo Center in Johannesburg.